When I heard about the sinking city out of nowhere for the Switch, I got really excited. A huge open world and going out to solve cases and mysteries is something that I haven't really gotten to do since the last time I played LA Noire, almost a decade ago. Mixed with a completely brand new setting for me in the Cthulhu mythos, I was beyond excited to give this a go. So did Sinking City keep my excitement, or did my expectations sink to a new low? Let's find out in this review. Now, before I go into this heavily, I do want to take note. We're going to take a look at the performance of this game, including looking at some side-by-side graphical comparisons with the PC, and also take a look at some of the handheld performance and see if in general this is a solid port here on the Nintendo Switch. But without further ado, let's talk about the story. The setting takes place in the 1920s, and you are Charles Reed, and you're starting to go insane. Your investigations on how to find a cure have led you to Oakmont, Massachusetts, where the city is on the brink of destruction from floods and supernatural origins. The city is now rife with creatures that are hostile that appeared only after the flood, and everyone in the city is also starting to slowly lose their minds. Your job will be to get to the bottom of it and hope to find a possible cure for yourself. Now, the game setting is one that I was completely brand new to. I've never heard of H.P. Lovecraft, the author who came up with the setting, or much of the Cthulhu lore, but I was definitely intrigued. The city is a huge open world, flooded and filled with not just dangerous creatures, but its residents are unique too. When you start off in the game, you're thrown neck deep in an important case to solve the mystery of Throgmorton's son disappearing after an expedition in which he was trying to figure out where all the creatures came from. Throgmorton is an important man in the city of Oakmont, and he will be a big key to kicking off the main story and solve the mystery. The game features a main story that's going to take some time to complete, as well as a bunch of side cases that you can take on for more content. But the biggest thing you're going to be doing is solving cases and navigating your way through this huge world. There is a few mechanics here that help you that a normal detective typically doesn't have. One is the ability to use Mind's Eye, which will allow you to see things a normal person wouldn't see, like the images of the past, omens, or tracks. Using the ability also reduces your sanity, and if that bar goes down, you'll start hallucinating and creatures will appear trying to kill you. You can typically ward this off by waiting it out or taking some antipsychotics. But another tool at your disposal is retrocognition. Once you've understood a crime scene with your mind's eye, you can piece together what happened using retrocognition to find out how a scene unfolded and gain huge evidence in the case. But true to its form, a game having you solve cases, you'll be inspecting a crime scene, looking through every nook and cranny, and questioning witnesses. Going through the archives is also going to be a huge thing. You'll be going to information areas like the local chronicle, the library, or even hospital records to find a missing person. But a big part of where this game shines is in the voice acting, which for the most part was top notch and a huge positive.
House. I'm sorry, but he was murdered. Shot in the head and the body hidden.
No. It cannot be true. No, no, no. I don't believe it. No.
My condolences, Mr. Throgmorton. I had hoped for a happier outcome.
Your condolences will not bring him back. So much of our blood spilled for nothing. So much effort in vain. My poor Albert.
The main character I wasn't crazy about, but I think I get his mild-mannered demeanor. He's going crazy and he's just trying to get through it all. The other characters stand out and provide a quality that I was definitely impressed by. Unfortunately though, a lot of the residents in Oakmont aren't people you can approach or interact with, which is too bad. Even as something as basic as like asking directions isn't really possible. And that is going to be one big theme to Sunken City. The developers didn't want any hand-holding of any kind here. Sure, the game's difficulty in regards to giving you clues for cases are there if you want them, but for the most part you're going to be navigating this huge world, having to read your investigation notes and figuring out where to go on your own. You'll be given crossroads of streets or a general area to search through, and you'll have to figure it out from there. For the most part, to me, this was a positive, and I enjoyed this as you get to get more immersed in the game, traveling about this huge open world, seeing its citizens suffering, but also seeing the flooding and traveling with your boat and seeing all this destruction everywhere. But if you do get tired of running through the streets and backtracking, you can utilize the game's fast travel elements by going into these phone booths to get from place to place. But keep in mind, even with the fast travel, you're going to be taking a bit chunk of your time traveling from place to place on foot, because these fast travel points are actually pretty spaced out. One might deduce that this is partly a running simulator, and I probably won't correct you. But one thing I noticed when traveling through this enormous flooded city is the fact that there is a lot of danger zones full of these mutated creatures that you can avoid if you figure out the city's layout. You do have a health bar and an insanity bar, and when you engage these creatures, they will be trying to kill you with ranged attacks or melee. The combat in this game has you essentially taking 3 routes. You can fight back using a gun, go into it with a melee and use your shovel, or you can run. I chose the latter most of the time unless the case required me to clear out a spot. Combat in this game is extremely clunky and off. My bullets at times wouldn't register, my shovel hits were very hard to aim, so typically my answer to combat was to run away, which was unfortunate since my character is an ex-military. The game makes bullets extremely rare, and it's actually the game's currency and how people pay you. You can scavenge, which you're going to be doing a lot, and you'll be looking for materials to make bullets, or you can make medkits to craft, and you'll need to be doing this on a consistent basis in order to survive. The good thing is crafting is very simple in this game, and if you have the materials in your inventory, with a simple click of the button, you can create them right on the spot. The game also features a skill tree where you'll gain experience for finding a new area, or completing certain parameters in a case, or completing the case itself, but this skill tree mostly gave out minor to good bonuses that helped you in your adventure, but none were really technically needed to progress in the game. It's more of a side progression, which I liked, and I thought it was nice and welcomed. While it didn't factor too much overall, it was nice to have this in this game and you could suit it to your playstyle. But as for the performance of this port, this is where things start to get a little dicey. First, you can tell they had to scale a ton back to get this game running on the Nintendo Switch. There was quite a few things I noticed from the other ports. First off, almost in my entire playthrough, I noticed that the game never really left darkness at any point. Looking at the other ports, there's times when the light will shine and the sun will be out and the game gets a little brighter, but this never really happened once in over 10 plus hours of gameplay for me. I might have just been unlucky here. 2, the game doesn't run super good in general, even in docked mode. The game is plagued by a lot of slowdowns and FPS issues. Pop-ins is a serious issue here, as you can tell from the screen. Everything is popping in right in front of you pretty much on a consistent basis. Everywhere. The lighting is also nowhere near how it is on the other ports as well. The game is just way more dark on the Switch versus the other ports. As for Handheld, I'm starting to feel what I see as a trend where the game almost looks nicer on here than it does on docked. Now, it's not a big difference, but the game ran smoothly for the little time that I got to mess with it, and I was happy to report that it wasn't any worse than what I experienced in docked mode. All the same issues for the most part still apply here, but I kind of felt it ran better even on Handheld. Overall though, despite the big performance issues, I was kind of okay with it in the end. Now, the price is actually reflected on the fact they know they had to scale it back so much visually. It's a little cheaper here than it is on the other consoles or PC, but frankly, when you try to not compare it and look at it as its own game, I'm ultimately fine with it. The game is huge, and I'm by no means giving them a pass, but it still looks nicer than a lot of other games with open worlds on the Switch. The popping in, though, really is really bad, and so they don't get a pass there, but in the end, if you're going to look into the sunken city and you can get past the graphical issues, I think this is an absolute solid game on the Switch. The game still has a ton of content, a big open world, a really cool story filled with a lot of lore to dive into. Combat is a tad bit clunky, but in the end, I enjoyed my time with this game. So my final rating here is going to be a solid 7 out of 10. For me, this isn't exactly a must pick up, and I'm glad to see the price is a little lower than the other ports, but there just isn't a lot of games like these on the Switch. So my recommendation would be, if the story and the gameplay seem good enough, grab this one. But if not, this is more of a must buy on a sale. Thank you guys for watching. If you guys could do me a huge favor, hit that like button as it helps others find this review. Sub to the channel if you're brand new. Comment down below your thoughts on if you can get past the performance issues and if you'll be picking this up or passing on it. With all that said though, I hope you all have a sunny day.